Smart Homes is a leading expert center for home automation and smart living. You run the smartest homes of the Netherlands for more than a decade. How have smart homes changed over the last 20, 30 years?
How smart homes have changed? Very much. The technology, I think in '92 was so different. It was all wired. Even the sensors for intrusion detection were wired. And there was no broadband internet. So the services at that time had to go via a wired analog telephone line. So the technology has changed so dramatically over the 27, 28 years, so you cannot compare.
What kind of people visit your center? Do they have anything in common?
Some have, yeah, because at a certain moment we started to concentrate a little bit more on people who are a little bit older, so let's say the grayer part of society. People the empty nesters is maybe the best word. They are orienting themselves on how would I live maybe in 10, 20 years from now.
And what do people like most in this smart home? What's their favorite?
Well, that has changed, of course, over the time. Now they are very much curious and to listen to what Alexa, and we have also Google Home, can do with a house. Simply talking to such a system and see what's happening. They like that. They still like the electronic door concept. So opening the door remotely, also from your bed, that when you're living alone, you can always open the door when you need a doctor to come in or a nurse to come in. They like that. And it depends, of course, again here on the people, who you are, what you want, what you're looking for.
What are the benefits of involving citizens in smart home development?
When you have these kind of visitors, and it's not only citizens, there are also, of course, many companies, many builders, construction companies, housing associations that have come to that house. You get a lot of feedback because they comment on what they see. If you say, for instance, with this screen, at a certain moment we didn't have, of course, the tablets or the smartphone, but we had a dedicated screen. You can see who is in front of your door and you can open the door remotely. People could have answered, or have answered in reality during this visit. No way that I should do that because I can go to the front door myself and open the door myself. That's much more polite. I mean, okay, that makes you thinking, is this a good function of a smart home? So all this kind of feedback is given to the companies that were producing this, also to ourselves. We also were thinking ourselves, maybe we over-technologize a home.
What are the most important future trends regarding smart homes, either technology or societal trends that you think will shape the future, how we live at home in the next 5, 10 years?
I would say there are two very important societal trends which will dominate the development. And one is energy or CO2 reduction. They go more or less together. I mean, in several countries we had the Paris Agreement says we should reduce the amount of CO2 exhaustion, production. The second big societal trend is, of course, aging. We talked about that already with the grey wave and so on. Aging is definitely a big burden for society. It's not only the number, like in Germany, where we saw recently figures that they will decrease, the population, the total population will decrease with 10%, but the number of older people will dramatically increase. So the burden of taking, and people will get older. That's another very important issue because we don't age healthy. Every year that we add to a life will be added in half of it in disease, in illness. So we need to have smart houses that take care more or less. We need robotics. So these are the two main drivers. And of course we have the technology. I mentioned robotics, but there will be a lot in the AI domain and other domains in the sensors and so on that will also help us here.
Could you tell me a little bit of story how living would look like in 10 years from now when I come home and it's the smartest home then, not of the Netherlands, but of whole Europe?
Yeah.
How will living look like? I open the door and what happens then if all of these technologies are there?
I'm sure that there will be a place for robots in our house. What we see now is robots that are really able to do anything what you like. Look at companies like Boston Dynamics, where they have the robots that can do a salto mortale, whatever. They are almost humanoid, or humans. They are humanoid, but almost humans. So I expect that this kind of technology, which is already now available, will get cheaper. And that's, of course, the question. There will come mass production. It's difficult to say if it will be there in 10 years or in 15 years, but somewhere like that, I expect that. Well, there are several other things that you could think of, like virtual presence of people. I think that the HoloLens technology, which is coming up, well, you know, companies like Microsoft have been working on it and are still working on it, but with the 5G technology, I think that, will be there in 2 years from now. I think that holographic representations of people next to you will be possible. So we could have this interview with you, and you not be present here physically, but as a virtual person.
Talking about robots in the future home, will these be just boxes cleaning up our floors, or will they be individuals that we communicate with?
I think we will enter the situation that we can communicate with robots. I think the best examples are already the speech boxes, which are so cheap from, we talked about that, Amazon and Google, and there will come more companies like that. But they are, of course, not good at this moment to interact. You can ask a question, and if the answer is not available, it simply says, I don't understand. So, but that will improve a lot during the next few years.
Is smart home just a high-tech gadget for wealthy people, or will smart homes also be available and have impacts of people with lower income?
That's the challenge, to have it for everybody. Right now, I would say it's more for the wealthy people, unless you talk about smart home technology for people who need it for their care. If they are in a care situation, at least in countries like the Netherlands, where I come from, you see that if it really helps in the home care or the care for chronic diseases, you are fully reimbursed for that. That is even now the case for video communication with your cardiologist or your home physician. So they pay, the insurance company pays for it. So that part of a smart home is for everybody.
What are the driving forces for the future of smart homes?
It's not the construction companies. They considered it in the past, when we started, as too difficult, extra. So I would say in the beginning it was maybe the high-tech industry, the bigger companies that also were selling building automation, office automation systems. They thought, okay, we can go to home automation. That was not easy, and it has not really come off the ground in the beginning. But now you see in these past 2 years, you see the big companies like Amazon, like Google, Apple, Samsung, who come with consumer products. And not to forget, of course, also the smart thermostats, the companies, the energy companies, the utility companies who sell smart thermostats, which have quite big options. But they all offer that to the consumer, and then you see a big, now consumer drive. But it's at the beginning. I mean, Amazon with its Alexa, Google with its Google Home, they sell now hundreds of thousands, maybe millions in the meantime. I assume it's even millions by now, 2019. And that means that, millions of houses have such a thing. Doesn't mean they are smart, that a home is totally smart, but it's a beginning. And that drives the willingness for people to buy more things.
What are the most important concerns people have about smart homes?
I would say there are two concerns, at least from my point of view. The first concern would be that people don't trust the system, that too much of the data, too many data from different sources, sensors, are going to the wrong hands, to the tech companies that do something with it, sell the data and so on. That could be one concern. The other concern is more from an ethical point of view. So you could think about that you are not in control anymore in the future of your own life. If a smart home would develop so strongly in a way that the whole smart home determines what life you should live. That's of course an ethical or philosophical way of thinking, but we should not close our eyes for that. You can imagine a world where indeed the intelligence also in the house is going far beyond what we think now. And now we are still in control. We push the button or we plug out the system, the electricity, and it doesn't work anymore.
Did you ever develop and display a technology that was ahead of time?
Yes, and maybe I have two examples, good examples of that. One is the home delivery box. At that time we had, that was 2001, when we built the smart house, we built next to the front door a separate door which has the width of a refrigerator, because behind it was the fridge, with a freezing part as well. And the idea was at that time people will go remote shopping. We didn't call it, I think, even internet shopping at that time, but it was possible. There was internet already, of course, in 2001, but there was not at that time the wide internet sales of and the home delivery. That was a big calculation or prediction. Now, 18 years later, you see now that internet shopping has come up again recently, with the supermarkets all delivering, and special companies delivering total meals, frozen or not, but fresh, and they should deliver it. And of course you have the parcels. Everything can be bought from internet and should be delivered. So there should be now, finally, after 90 years, a good use of that special door. The other example is, I think, e-health by itself. So in 2005, so about a couple of years later, we installed and we bought and we installed things to measure at home your blood pressure, your weight, your lung function and whatever, all e-health. And more than 10 years later, so it's now 14 years later, we still see that e-health is finally coming up, but not still widely sold. And so we were far too early. At that time, we convinced, everybody said, yes, you're right, but the business model was not there. Doctors didn't want to look at these data. And it took more than 10, 15 years for awareness, for also seeing now that there are real benefits. Yeah.
What about connectivity in smart homes? If someone buys a device and next year the next one, will it be easy to connect them in the future? Is there a standard?
And there is not one standard, there are many standards. That's the problem again. There is at least a European standard, which is called KNX. And the big companies, European companies, are working with that. So that guarantees in the standard smart home applications that if you buy it from one company, that it will work with the product of the other company, sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.